Many times the young people that we work with are the young people who have systematically been pushed out of the traditional school model, right? They come to us and pretty much they're trying to find themselves as young people. Many of them are very intelligent, just that in the system they fell through the cracks, right? They fell through the systems that were intended to keep most of them in, but then there are the few that systematically move out of the system. And so we work with the young people to reintegrate them and empower them to move forward. And so we provide them the skills and opportunities for them to be able to move forward.
One of the things that we have noted is that in years process, a young person may be forced in a traditional system to complete high school within 4 years or to complete a trade within a year or two. And I think with YouthBuild, what we recognize is that it allows young people to come and go as they need because their lives have called them to either focus on family or focus on work. And so I think it's always about welcoming them in and helping them recognize this is a process that you are now taking ownership of, and when you're ready you can come back and we're ready to serve you in whatever avenue that is. And sometimes it's they're ready for just construction, or maybe they're just ready for someone to talk to, and that's as much as they're able to handle within that time. So it's really about where in the cycle are you in your process.
So today I'm inspired by the courage in the room, those of you who stand on the front lines every day, and the young leaders who have persevered over everything in their lives, the worst of circumstances, to achieve their full potential. You make this movement possible.
Can you give an example where you were like, this guy, I'm not sure this person's going to make it through, but they blew you away and this is why I do the program?
There were twins, Jonathan and Christian. Jonathan and Christian were twins. I met them my first year. The first 2 days that they were there, the twins got into a fight. And it was a brotherly fight. And I was like, oh, we will not be able to survive with both of the twins in the same space. But what started happening is that the disconnection, the inability to communicate that they had previously endured, all that trauma of being put against each other. In our program, we work through them with them to be able to go beyond that, right? Let's find a trade. Let's find something that you all can do together, right? Construction was the way. And so one brother did one thing, the other brother did the other thing. And so it became very much a competitive spirit that they already had within them, but it was used in a very positive form. And so through that, yes, those first few days, first few months actually were very difficult, but when one brother finished, then a few months later the next brother finished, we were just like, okay, it works. It is a process. And we spoke to them, and after the fight we thought we will never be able to do this with these two young men that for years have been at odds with each other. I mean, when you think about sibling rivalry, they had that sibling rivalry, but it was turned from something negative into something positive, right? And I think that within the YouthBuild model, those opportunities are provided, right? Where you have young people who might be at odds outside of the space, that within the space they have the ability in the space in order for them to build those positive connections and those positive opportunities for them to grow together, right? And that's just one story of many that we see in our program, where young people that we thought the first few days, there's no conceivable way, especially if they're already acting this way, that they're going to be able to go through the whole process. And then they'll show, of course, after it all, they show you a whole different other side that because of the spaces that they were in, they weren't able to express or they weren't able to show. But within the YouthBuild program and the model, they're able to show.
I think when I think of a success story and a story of growth, I think of Amanda, who was a student that I taught in my second year. She was just coming into our program and had been forced to cut her addictions because she found out she was pregnant. So one of the things that we realized is that she consistently struggled while I was working with her in the second year, not as a member, but really with everything that was happening at home. Family issues, housing issues, and relationship issues with the father of her child. What happened with Amanda was that at the end of that year, I moved into another program, staff changes or whatever life changes came in over that summer, and Amanda was lost for about 3 years. And we thought that, here's another student who's not going to make it. And she ended up showing up with Roberto in Compton Youthbuild. And so I show up and I see Amanda, she's enrolling, she's very excited, but I know based on the situation she was walked into, and she was in a new relationship, new baby, and had again fallen into possible addiction. She came back into the program and there was a concern, well, this is what we know has happened, so maybe she's not going to be successful this year. But up until this point, she's been a huge success, and one of the things that I know is that she's using that while she's still in the process of completing diploma and getting work and stabilizing again. She's consistently a voice for those people who are struggling to get into their own, or who are getting in their own way, I should say. Talking to them, helping them, saying, this is where I was, these are the steps that I took, I fell back, and this is where I am today. And so for me, that's still a success. While she hasn't graduated, the fact that she's persevering through those processes and has come back because she knows that Youthbuild is a safe place to come to, even if it's not in the same city, she's gone back to Youthbuild, recognizing that the staff in those programs will support her.
Support each other every single day like you did today. Bring this energy that we feel here, because we felt it. Take it home.
Yes, sir.
Take it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Support my brother over here, James, in his battle. He shared with us last night. Support him. Whoop. Yes, sir.
Yes,
So when I say you say there. You. There.
And then for staff, for you all, what abilities or kind of person can survive or thrive in what you do? Because you see a lot of trying stuff.
So I grew up in very much the same condition as many of the young people. So I can relate to very much a lot of what they're going through. In my personal life, I have a sibling who very much is going through the same thing that they're going through. Actually, she is a part of our program. And it's one of those things that you never know. And that's one of the things that as an educator, we have to move away from passing judgment on young people because we do not know their life situation, right? In a traditional school model, oh, this young person hasn't been here, they just don't want to do their schoolwork. Oh, they're just falling asleep, it's because they're probably high or just, they don't know. And oftentimes as educators, right, we want our young people to be engaged, right? We work on this activity, or we work on this project, or we're doing this, and then we see our young people completely turned off by it or completely not engaging in it. But then we don't think, what might have happened before they got here? What might have transpired in their life last night, the day before, during the weekend? What call did they get? What message did they just get? What happened for them to now be here in my classroom, sitting there completely lost, right? And you can feel it, right? It's not, and us as educators, we are told, don't feel, right? Don't feel. You can't feel. That's completely, you're pulling yourself away from the class. You're pulling yourself away from the curriculum. You're not on point. You're not on task. The young people are not meeting these standards, right? But when we talk about educating our young people to grow, to thrive, to be resilient, as educators within the programs that we work, we become essentially their backbone in instances, right? We're there and we feel and we're there, and we have to acknowledge that it's gonna weigh on us. And us as educators, we have to work with them. And I always tell our young people, I will work with you. I'll keep working with you. Even in the days that you feel completely lost, I will work with you. Even if you're not completely here, I will work with you. And that's one of the parts that us as educators that work in Youthbuild, it weighs on us. And oftentimes there are moments in time in which we just feel like, what did I not catch? What did I not do? Why did this young person completely disappear? And there's a guilt, right? But our business is not the business of saving young people. That's not our business. We are not here to save. We're here to work with our young people. We're here to be a source of energy that they might need, right? when they're here with us in our space, we're here to support them in whichever way possible, right? We know that there's a crack that they're gonna have to walk over, and we have to make sure that they don't fall through it.
When you're working with them as a staff member, I think the important thing to remember is that that young person isn't aware of what they don't know. And so the biggest skill that I think a person can bring out of a young person is the asking questions, the being wrong. It's one of those things that if they're willing to work with you, even if they don't know anything, there's hope, because we're able to build, even if it's just starting at addition, subtraction. And I think that that's the fear for a lot of our young people. They come to us sometimes as adults, out of school for a few years, and so in their minds, I want to be a good student means I don't make life harder for you, or I don't ask questions, or I don't stand out. And I think that that's the big thing, that to be able to work with someone, you have to open those lines of communication, and they're going to come in not knowing how to ask for help, what they need help on, or who to ask for help. So I think the more that we can create those lines of communication, and that they are taught and supported and given the tools to ask questions, I think we forget that sometimes our young people are coming from places where asking questions is a burden, or it's not going to be responded to correctly. And so we really just need to kind of start from the ground up in some ways, and our young people need to be given the skills to know how to even ask questions, or how to expect support. And I think oftentimes we expect that common knowledge is something that everybody comes in with. And I always try to tell our teachers and our staff at Youthbuild volunteers, there is no common knowledge. So if you think that this is something that they need more details on, provide it, give it to them, because that's how access happens.
How do you see, if at all, social media today, the connectedness or lack of, actually talking to each other, does that have an effect on the kids?
There's a spectrum of our young people, which we might think they're social media savvy, and they might not. They might just be like, I just got onto Instagram because everybody else is on Instagram. I might be on Snapchat because everybody else is on Snapchat, but they don't necessarily know how to use it, right? The skill, right? The communication skill that goes along with, hey, being able to post something that everybody will connect to, right? There are young people who just post for the sake of posting. There are some young people who post with, real connection to many different things and issues. So when it comes to communication, right, with our young people, there is a range. And oftentimes within the classroom, you can see that our young people, there are some that are very tech savvy. There are some that think that they might be tech savvy, but then they discover, wait, I can talk to my phone on Snapchat, but when it comes to, all right, so can you say what you're thinking about? They will literally stand there and be like, well, I don't know what to say. And it becomes very interesting how they know what they want to say, but they don't know how to say it in a way that they think is academically fit. And so the academic kind of communication versus the social media kind of communication, those are two very different kind of skills, right? And in their mind, right? Because it goes back to public speaking and being able to connect. And I think with our young people, they have those skills and abilities, but being able to tell them, great, that was a great idea. Let's keep moving forward. Let's fix this, let's do this, let's modify this, let's change this around, right? Because a like is a like, but there's no other commentary other than here. Somebody pressed the button and was like, yeah, I like it, but there's nothing else to it. Yeah. So, but being able to do that.
I think when it comes to social media, one thing that I found is that our young people think of it as a whole different world. This is my personality here. This is the life. This is the persona. And sometimes that persona, they try to carry it forward when you're in person, but that's I think the disconnect is I don't know how to be myself, so I need to shadow that, because either I don't like myself, or myself isn't getting social media likes, or getting the pull that other people get. And so I think what we start to recognize is that there's an issue around personality splits in some ways, or trying to really separate themselves from who they actually are into who I want to be. And I think that we all do that. We all project, I want to be stronger, or I want to work and have certain amounts of money. But I think what the issue happens is when it starts to interrupt the interaction. where we say, I want to be this way, but now because I'm pretending, I don't actually ask for the skills and the support to communicate, or I don't know how to look somebody in the eye the same way I would, and say my opinion the same way I would share my opinion openly without a concern about what the reverberation will be, because I do it on social media. And so to me, it's the personality split that concerns me, because usually when we see that, it digs to something deeper. What are you trying to do? Is this who you aspire to be, or is this just the persona that you think everybody else prefers you to be? And I think it's very much an adolescent process. They're trying to discover who am I now? And so social media, in some ways, is it can be a positive in the sense that they're building towards something different, but I do think that oftentimes they fall succumb to the pressure, which also interrupts the interaction in person. And so when we're working with people, that's the hard part. They don't necessarily feel comfortable being worked with, because come send me a message on my Snapchat, or don't look me in the eye because that's too personal over me putting it online.
Okay. Anything else you want to add quickly?
When it comes to Youthbuild, right? In my experience, it's always going to be a process. It's not something that's going to change overnight. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a struggle. Every single day, you have to go in there with the want to keep moving forward. And the young people would speak to it, right? They might not speak to it there and then, but it might be in a few years, right? There's young people who will thank you, not there and then, but later on. And in our world in which we think of everything being instant, this is not an instant job. This is a job that requires resilience. This is a job that requires, and a movement that requires people to keep moving and working and organizing together, collectively. And if we decide to keep moving forward and keep moving our communities forward without passing judgment upon those who we work with, I think that the movement will continue to grow. It will continue to expand, because there are millions of young people, millions of adults throughout the United States who need those supports, but those supports are not there systemically in order for them to be able to move forward. And so we're fortunate enough that we have been working long enough with Youthbuild where we have seen that process enough times where we now can be able to speak to those processes and be able to provide more of that knowledge to others. And I feel fortunate for everything that I've been through as part of Youthbuild.
I think the message that I would communicate to students and staff all the time, and trying to stay in the process, because it is very hard, I think, after we are confronted with the realities of our young people, and for some of us, we've lived those realities, or we're still in the process of helping other people in our communities through those realities. So I think the main thing that I always tell anybody in Youthbuild is enjoy the fun. The fun is what keeps you focused when you're having that hard time, because it is going to be hard. It is not an easy job, and it's not an easy commitment, neither for the members or the staff that are in the programs. So it's always enjoy the fun. There's never enough community building, and take that time to have fun together and play.